Hey, this is Brandon with Lean on Him Consulting, and welcome to another installment of our brand analysis series. Today, let's talk about the 7 essentials of an attractive brand. Listen, we've developed this content for passionate, driven, gifted entrepreneurs just like you. We already know you're going to figure out how to be successful. I work with plenty of clients just like you all the time. The goal for us is simply to accelerate the process for you. I mean, you can chop down a tree with a hammer and it'll take you 30 days. If you find the right tool like a chainsaw, it takes you about 3 minutes. We want to be the chainsaw. We simply want to help you accelerate the process and get out of your way. So today we're going to talk about, again, the 7 essentials of an attractive brand. What can we talk about with that? So let's do it. The first thing is, the first essential is a brand that speaks to the target audience. Let me just be honest. If your brand speaks to everyone, it is speaking to no one. I got sad news for you. That's right. Your brand has to speak to your target audience. You said, well, Brandon, I don't know who my target audience is. Well, you want to figure that out because your target audience tends to be more loyal to you, pay you more within a less of a time frame. I have a whole nother training that I'll do on that for your target audience. But if you know who your target audience is, make sure your brand speaks clearly to them. It has to speak clearly to them so that you can gain their attention. This isn't just to impress them, it's to get their attention. Well, what do they do with that attention? They make purchasing behaviors. They make inquiries. They call you. They email you. They text you. They say, hey, I heard about you and I want to do business with you. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do? So that is a very important essential, a brand that speaks to the target audience. Very, very important. All right. So in fact, how does that translate? Well, it should translate on your business cards, your flyers, your social media posts. No one should, let me just be a little dramatic here. No one should look at your brand and you are a mechanic and they're looking at your brand and the things you're posting on social media, and your last 5 posts, they should be able to get a clear understanding of what your brand stands for. They shouldn't look at your brand and say, oh, wow, they must do landscaping. Well, that's completely inaccurate. They don't know who you're talking to. Your brand is not speaking clearly. So again, it needs to reflect clearly on your business cards, your flyers, your social media posts. And again, if you want to do a quick check, look on your social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, your business page, and unfortunately, even on your personal page. I'll go into another training on that. But for the most part, in general, if you have a business page on social media, look at your last 5 or 10 posts. Are they consistent with what represents your brand? So if it doesn't, you want to clean that up, because if you're in business for yourself as a small business, you're just getting started, or you've been in business 20 years, it doesn't matter. You want to make sure your brand is attractive to your target audience. All right. So that leads me to the second point, which is kind of builds off of the first. You want to have marketing, your approach to marketing, it needs to market like a sniper approach, not a shotgun approach. Meaning, when you market, what are your best marketing avenues? Do you find that it's best to market when you do Facebook ads? Do you do LinkedIn posts? Is it better for you on Instagram? Is it better for you that people come to your website? How are people doing business with you? How they end up coming in contact with you? Figure that out, and don't just spend money and resources and time marketing everywhere. Your brand is not going to be very attractive, not because it's not great, but because you're not spending enough time in the most effective avenues. That's kind of like a person, let's just say you're an attractive bachelor or a beautiful woman, and you stay in the house all the day. No one will actually know that you're eligible on the dating market because you're not exposed. No one knows and can see you. Same thing with your amazing business that I know you worked hard to build. You have to market with a sniper approach, meaning Even if you have the budget for it, you have to be accurate and efficient with your resources. So even if you had the most money in the world and you just have money to spend, you can spend it on all these avenues easily and not miss any sleep. It doesn't matter. Just because you have the resources doesn't mean you should waste them. So be more accurate and efficient with your resources. Here's the thing: a sniper doesn't require as much effort because their aim is better. Here's a business question for you: how is your aim? Are you aiming with a shotgun and you just let it fly because you know it's just going to spread everywhere and hope something sticks? Or are you taking your time measuring the wind and you're checking the environment, making sure that when you aim and you execute, that it's hitting your target and it's more effective, and you know where to push the gas pedal down in the areas that are important? You got to make sure it's accurate. All right. So that leads to the third component of how to make your brand attractive. Okay. Consistency with your color palette. Say, Brandon, that sounds pretty fancy. What does that actually mean? Well, here's a test. If I were to talk to you right now and ask you this question, say, okay, you're in my office, you're here in my office with me right now, and I say, hey, do you have your color codes? If you look at me like I spoke Chinese, that's a problem, because your designer, whoever the design firm you work with, they should have given you the color codes. Now, I'm not saying you should be an expert in understanding that language. That's graphic design language, but you should at least know and have access to your color codes. You say, well, what's the benefit of that? Well, let's say that you don't have your color codes and you want to get t-shirts printed, you want to get flyers made, you want to get your website done. And some of you may actually already have that up already. But if you don't know what your color codes are, you don't know if those colors, let's say your logo is green and purple. Let's just use that as an example. You say green and purple, but do you not know that there's hundreds of variations of green and hundreds of variations of purple? How do you know that your colors are actually being consistent? You say, well, it made the eye test. Well, that's not good enough, because if you don't have the color codes, slowly but surely over time, if you laid out all your marketing materials, I challenge you to do that. If you laid out all your marketing materials, shirts, flyers, all that stuff, and you just looked at it, look at your website and say, you know what? Are all these colors matching? And what you'll find is that you'll see like 5 different variations of purple, 6 different variations of green that have slowly alternated in the marketplace. That creates inconsistency. I'm gonna be dramatic for a second. You wouldn't dare go to a restaurant that violated these terms. All right. If you went to McDonald's, you know what their colors are, right? They are kind of a gold, yellowish color and a red. They have their color codes. You don't think that their corporate team, marketing team already knows what those are? Yeah, they do. All right. But if you went to a McDonald's, say you went to a McDonald's this afternoon, and the McDonald's that you went to, it had the same advertisement, it had McDonald's on it, had the golden arches, but the colors were pink and black. Are you going to that McDonald's? No. All right. Even though you're not going to eat the sign, at least I hope you're not, you eat the sandwiches, you consume the product, you don't consume the sign, but yet you're not going to go. Why? Because you don't know if for sure if this is a McDonald's, because this doesn't represent who they are. All right. So as a small business, you say, well, I'm not as big as McDonald's. It doesn't matter. In fact, you get penalized for it more. As a small business, you can't, if I go to that McDonald's that's pink and black, I skip past that McDonald's and I go 2 blocks down and find the next one. Guess what? If your branding and marketing, your color palette is inconsistent, it shows a lack of professionalism and lack of organization. And they say, well, I'm going to transfer that emotion of how I feel about your branding to how your food is, your food quality. You say, well, that's not fair. I've got the best food in the world. Doesn't matter. That McDonald's that has a pink and black advertising, that's wrong. Clearly, they could have the best food. They could be the one McDonald's that doesn't use heat lamps and they cook everything fresh. Who knows? Who cares? You won't find out because you're not going to that McDonald's. You know it and I know it. So make sure as a small business that you don't lose business by not having your color codes. You say, well, what should I do? You need to as soon as you get done watching this video, reach out to your graphic designer and say, hey, watch this video. This guy was telling me I should have my color codes. What are color codes? That person should be able to give you a couple of different versions of your color codes. One is the PMS colors, which is your Pantone colors. Don't worry about what it is. You can look it up later, but that designer should know what these are, and they should be able to give it to you. Next thing you need to have is your CMYK color codes. Again, that's for commercial printing. All right, I'm probably do another video on explaining all what that is in more detail. The next one is your RGB color codes. That's how you view color on digital screens, LCD screens, monitors, phones, tablets, etc. That's how color is viewed. That's how it's translated on those kind of devices. And the last one is your what's called a hex code. That's a digital number that we probably have seen, but don't really know what it was. That's how color is translated on websites and other platforms where they ask for a hex code to translate color. If you have access to those, you will ensure that your colors will stay within a consistent tight range. Color is rendered slightly different across all spectrums of those color codes, but you're going to stay within a tighter range together. All right. So again, you got to make sure that you have consistency in your color palette. Very important. All right. Get with your designer today, not tomorrow, today. After you watch this video, send them a text, email. And I'm going to tell you this. I know sometimes after you get your logo and stuff done, you can't get a hold of your designer. They've got out of the industry. They've moved to another state, changed the number. That's a problem. You want to address that. Eventually, you're going to need to have these color codes corrected. Is your business going to fail tomorrow if you don't have color codes? No. This is just about how to make your brand more attractive. And if you want to do that, you want to go take the necessary steps to get that addressed correctly. All right. So then that leads to the next point. All right. With your attractive brand, you want to have a versatile logo that can exist on light and dark backgrounds. All right. I could do a 2-hour video on just this particular point here. All right. But I'm gonna try to address it very quickly. What does that mean? If you have your logo, again, I like to teach in a very kinesthetic, hands-on way. So if you're watching this right now, you can go straight to your file, your email, and look and test what I'm actually covering, because I've been doing this for a while and I run across these scenarios way too often. All right. If you have a logo right now and you look at it on your phone and you look at how your logo has been used on light backgrounds of flyers, if you're a vendor or a sponsor, look at how your logo is being used. How is it reflected on a flyer that has a light background where the logo is placed? How does it look when it's placed on a dark background? Here's what you typically don't want to have. You don't want to have what I call the permanent square and rectangle of death that follows you everywhere with your logo. You know what I'm talking about? Where if you look at your logo and it's got a surrounding box, rectangle, square, circle, whatever, you got a box around it that you can't separate that logo from. Why is that? It's probably because your designer did not give you what's called the source file. The source file is the original file in which the logo was created in, that allows for ultimate manipulation, change, alteration, etc. of the color. So what should it look like, Brandon, on a light background? Well, again, I'll use the example if your logo was purple and green. Well, what's going to look like if you're featured as a guest interview or a speaker or something like that, and the host, their background on their flyer is all purple. Guess what? Your logo, the purple aspects of your logo aren't going to reflect, because it's two complementary colors that are going to end up canceling each other out. So you'd be better off if you had an all white version of your logo. Many of you don't have that. In fact, right now, I challenge you to just double check, see if you have the copy of that version of the logo. So, well, I didn't know I was supposed to have that. You do now. All right. This is how to make your brand more attractive, because what is the purpose of a logo? The purpose of a logo is to be created. You give birth to the identity of your brand. But if you give birth to your logo and you have an identity, but no one can see it and read it, well, it's not identifiable. All right. It has to be clear, legible, and scalable. Again, let's say that you try to put your logo on a billboard. Well, you do know that the size of the logo on your phone is not the same size as it will look on a billboard. It's going to be much larger, much larger. And so here's another test for you. If you ever go to your computer, not necessarily from your phone, if you go to your computer and find the what you would deem to be a high resolution version of your logo, and take your finger, if you're on your phone or device on your computer, zoom in on it, get as close as you can. As you get closer to that, if you notice it starts to get pixelated, technical word, if it starts to get blurry, you do not have a print ready version of your logo, which also means you can't change that logo to operate properly on light and dark backgrounds. All right. I hate to seem like I'm beating up your graphic designer, because they may be your cousin, they may be your uncle. It doesn't matter. Just get with them, have them correct that if they can, so that you can go about your way and make sure your brand is more attractive. All right. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is make sure your vendors keep your brand consistent. All right. This kind of connects to the point I made earlier. If you have your color codes, if you have your proper logo source files, guess what? You're armed and dangerous to stay consistent in the marketplace. But guess what? Your vendors, they don't necessarily have to care about that. In fact, some of them don't. Whatever you send them, they will use. And if you don't give them instructions, oh, better yet, if you don't even know what to tell them, they're just going to move along, and they may end up upcharging you to fix your logo. All right. And they may not honor the colors that you want them to use. They say, well, we don't have that color on file. All right. Well, if I give you the color code, can you match it? Oh, well, we don't do that. Okay. Well, I can't keep doing that kind of business, because otherwise my logo and branding and colors will end up being inconsistent. So make sure your vendors, who are your vendors? The people who print your t-shirts, develop your website, print your flyers, business cards, etc. All those people, they don't have a vested interest in your brand like you do. All right. So you have to be on guard to make sure that you are armed with the information you need to know so you can keep your brand consistent. No one should be guessing what your branding colors and fonts are. All right. I've already touched on the color part, but let's deal with the fonts. Many of you have gotten your logo created and you have no idea what the fonts are used, what fonts were used to create your logo. What does that mean? If you look at your flyer and your business card right now, and you look at the fonts that are used to create your logo, say it's a script font and some kind of there's technical words for the fonts, but I'm not going to use that in here. I don't want to bore you with the industry jargon, but you can look at the fonts of your logo. Now look at the fonts of everything else around your business card. I have seen business cards. The logo will be two fonts, and the title of the person's name and the phone number and email address will be totally different fonts. Altogether, it'd be like 8 different fonts on that business cards. That is inconsistent. That is not an attractive brand. Yeah, it may be cute to you, but that is not a consistent brand. I know why we do that. I know why you do that. You do that to make certain things stand out, to make it look cute, to make it look pretty, just to kind of infuse your personality into it. But that violates a lot of branding consistency rules. All right. It's like this. When you lay out something like that, it's like everything is competing for attention. Everything is screaming. There's no hierarchy of importance. And so you want to create a smooth communicating message in the way you keep the branding colors. In fact, your colors of your logo and your font should dominate the theme for everything else. So if your logo uses 2 fonts, those exact same 2 fonts, which you should know, you should have been provided with, they should be permeated on most of your marketing material, especially when your primary marketing material that you roll out, that you're announcing to the world that, hey, here I am as a brand. It needs to stand out and be consistent, but you can't do that unless you have access to your original fonts and your colors. All right. So um, this leads to the next point. All right. For an attractive brand, I need to break down what a brand is anyway. All right. You need to know the difference between a personal brand and a company brand. There is a major difference. All right. Many of you, you're probably in business right now and you're doing well, but you don't realize that the reason you're doing well is because you're a great person. Your person probably well connected. You spent years working on personal development, and as a result, you have good soft skills, human relation skills, and you know how to engage with people. And you have good influence. That is not your company brand. That's your personal brand. You could get away with doing business for quite some time and be just fine, even if you don't have a great logo. All that stuff about logo stuff, that is about your company brand. But here's the thing, you can't control how the market is introduced to you. Granted, if everybody you were to potentially do business with, if they met you in person first, you probably close the deal. No problem, easy. But what if they pick up your business card first? What if they visit your website first? What if they look at your last 5 posts that you have on social media and it doesn't look it's at the same level of quality that you have as a person? Guess what? Your company brand may be holding back your personal brand. You may be winning in spite of your company brand. That's basically what it means. So you need to know the difference between that. And it may cause you to have to readjust and enhance some things on your company brand side. Um, and here's how you'll know that. You'll notice that business will come more easy to you when you meet people in person or when they get on the phone with you, as opposed to them just converting from your website or converting from an email campaign. There is a difference. Okay. So you want to know the difference between that. All right. So then that leads to the seventh and final essential to an attractive brand. All right. It is this: practice the 60-40 rule with marketing. All right. What does that even mean, Brandon? I've talked about this a little bit earlier. Anytime you create any kind of digital or print collateral, that's flyers, business cards, t-shirts, social media posts, whatever the case may be. Anytime you create something like that, it is a form of marketing. You are communicating, saying, hey, I have something of value. I'd love for you to take a look at it, patronize the business, interact with it by purchasing and exchanging value for value. My valuable service for your valuable resource, which is money. And so when you're doing that, marketing has to operate by 3 rules. There has to be 3 things that I believe, based on my research, that have to be done. The first thing is it has to inform, impress, and intrigue. Again, it has to inform, that's the words. It has to impress, that's usually communicated through images, proper, accurate image placement. And then intrigue, meaning the way it's done, it has to create a curiosity. A curiosity that means that, hey, I think I want to call them. I wonder what else they do. I want to know more about them. Man, I think I need what they have. That's a posture of intrigue and curiosity. All right. Your marketing has to accomplish those 3 things. All right. And within that, where the 60-40 rule comes into place, is let's say you have a flyer, 8.5 by 11, which is a traditional standard sheet of paper size. And I would say it needs to be 60% image and 40% words or content. All right. And that includes your call to action and all that. Why? Because first of all, let's say that what I've seen in most marketing, it's usually 80-20, 80% content and 20% image. Here's the question to ask yourself. You get that flyer in your hand. Are you reading that whole flyer from top to bottom? No. No, you don't even, most of us don't even have the attention span to read, or the interest to want to read something from top to bottom, from the first sentence down to the last. We aren't reading it anyway. And guess what? You don't need to read. Most people don't need to read most of your marketing material anyway to make a purchasing decision. That would be based on complete logic, but we don't make purchasing decisions only based on logic. It's based on emotion as well. So image helps to communicate what you're trying to say. All right. It's done a lot of times in commercials, still shot marketing, flyers, etc. The content is still needed, but not as much. Just understand this. Images that are accurate will help to accentuate what you're saying. All right. So you don't want to have no content because now you have an image but no context. Then you don't want to have too many words because you understand that most people aren't going to read that anyway. All right. So again, these are the 7 essentials of an attractive brand. Number 1, a brand that speaks to your target audience. Number 2, marketing with a sniper approach. Number 3, consistency in your color palette. Number 4, a versatile logo with light and dark backgrounds. Number 5, make sure your vendors keep your brand consistent. Number 7, know the difference between your personal brand and company brand. And number 7, practice the 60-40 rule with marketing. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully this is helpful to you. I want to say this. If you are a business, you heard all this information and it's got you feeling a little out of sorts. You say, man, I got some stuff I need to work on. I need to get back with my designer, and I'm not sure if they'll be to help me. If you're a business and you are looking for ways to enhance or improve your brand, maybe this segment here has exposed some things that you want to address. You don't want to go the next 6 months and have it be this like the last 6 months. All right. Here's what you can do. Visit our website and book a session with us today. We'd be happy to sit down with you virtually or in office if you're in the DFW area. Where's the link? You'll visit the link in the description below for further instructions. We look forward to talking to you. And remember, when you grow, your business grows. Until next time.